Imagine the following scenario. You're mourning the loss of a loved one in the middle of their funeral. And as you're reminiscing about the life of this person with friends and family, a pastor affiliated with the church suddenly brings the event to a screeching halt. Why? Well, because a slideshow featured during the service showed the deceased with her wife. Yes, her wife. This is exactly what happened during the funeral of Vanessa-Collier, a 33-year-old mother of two who happens to be gay. See, Collier's family had simply paid to use the facility, even bringing in their own pastor to oversee the wake. But apparently New Hope Ministries found photos of Collier and her family so offensive that it had to shut down the entire event before it was over. Christina Higley, Collier's wife, responded, "I only hoped we could find a house of God to celebrate my beautiful wife and her life, her whole life, and lay her to rest in God's arms." Collier's friends and family were forced to pick up and move the flowers and family photographs and eventually her casket itself across the street, where they continued the wake at a nearby mortuary. Of course, many Christians deem homosexuality as a sin, and I guess technically it's every church's right to decide who they offer services to. But shutting down a funeral that's already bought and paid for because you're offended by the lifestyle of the deceased is beyond the pale. Even the Pope seems to get that times are a-changing. So here's a message to the religious community. Either embrace the reality of the 21st century or keep your bigotry to yourself. Now let's break this up.
Woman's funeral in Lakewood comes to a screeching halt. Friends and family moved the service after the church refused to allow part of a video showing the woman and her female partner. CBS 4's Rick Sounder has been looking into this dispute and joins us now live at that church tonight. Rick?
Karen, there were too many people to hold the service at this funeral home. So the family and the directors of that home decided to hold it across the street at this church, which knew that the deceased was a gay woman. But they objected to part of a video about her life, and that touched off today's protest called Dignity in Death.
What do we want? Respect! When do we want it now?
They shouted with concern for what they perceived as a wrong to a woman and a community. Saturday was the funeral for 33-year-old Vanessa-Collier, a gay woman. New Hope Ministries was not her church, but the facility had been contracted for the service, an event that was halted before a video could be played.
They wanted us to edit our video because of her sexual orientation. It shouldn't matter.
The video showed her and her common-law wife kissing, according to the chaplain who was conducting the ceremony. He asked that we not show his face.
New Hope did their absolute very best to accommodate this family in their hour of need.
He says the church did not discover the objectionable content until late because it had been lost. The funeral was suddenly moved across the street to a funeral home which had arranged the service.
And we all deserve to have dignity in death.
But the protesters believe the church's policy is wrong.
I feel that the church doesn't respect us. Vanessa was an amazing woman.
The church declined to comment, but one passerby got into an argument with marchers.
You guys are taking the Bible out of context. This is not Christianity.
Hey guys.
For the protesters, what began in anger ended in hugs and prayers. The family had paid for use of the church for the service, but the church refunded the money after that service was moved. Live in Lakewood, Rick Salinger, CBS 4 News.
Thank you, Rick.